Asian Station.
You lift me up high, you spread my wings and fly me to the sky. I feel so alive, it's like my soul thrives in your light. But how I wish you'd be here with me.
Bismillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings to all the listeners out there. Welcome to Life as It Is on your favorite nation station 90.4 FM. Today I'm joined by our dear friend Hatim Al Abdilsalam and Ahmed Al Matani for a new, fresh and exciting episode, the title of which is Islamophobia. Again, I understand this is a topic which has been discussed for the first time here, at least in the English language. And this is something which is very crucial since it's been going on around the world and it's accelerating and picking up. Unfortunately, not many people talk about it. So there's a lot of gray area as to how to react when dealt with the Islamophobia. The number to call today is 2460-2058. We shall be taking your calls online, inshallah ta'ala, soon. And let's get the show on the road. So, Ahmed.
Well, thank you so much for having me here at the show. I'm so happy to be with you guys. And as you said, it's a very sensitive topic, but it's very important to be discussed. Mm-hmm. And this is why, we've decided to dedicate, one whole episode, for the topic.
Exactly.
And especially with what's happening in the region nowadays, I think it might be accelerated even more with the recent, events. So I think, it's very crucial to talk about it.
Now, most of the people would think that maybe this is a new phenomenon that is just happening now, or is it only happening to Muslims?
Right.
But this has been happening for a very long time, since the beginning of creation,
exactly,
with Prophet Adam and the rest of the Prophet. It's not something new. It's not even towards Islam. It's not only in the 21st century that Islam has been classified as the religion of terrorism, or the religion that threats people's life and people having fear of Islam. Maybe later on we'll share some points about
exactly
why do people fear about Islam,
exactly,
and what's happening,
or religion in general.
Yeah,
a lot of people out there, they say, well, I don't believe in any organized religion, I'm just spiritual. So there is a distrust and a fear of any form of religion. And if we see in the teachings of the Quran, the number of other prophets throughout the era, they have been called Muslims. And this is like a generic label which refers to anybody who submits willfully to the will of the Creator.
Correct.
So it's not something new, like you have mentioned. And all of them were, efforts were made to discredit them, to call them names. A number of them were attacked physically. Some of them were even killed.
Yes.
If you're going to be an ambassador of the Creator God Almighty, then be ready. This kind of treatment will be dished at you.
Exactly. It's part of the test,
Yeah.
The more faith you have, the more trial and test you'll have in this life. And this is part of the whole process, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you see, in terms of this particular term called Islamophobia,
yes,
which can be expanded to view as the opposition of the truth, or the opposition of justice, or opposition of the message of the Creator which is sent to the creation. So in terms of the word Islamophobia, there are a number of definitions available on the internet. The one I liked was dislike of or prejudice against Islam or Muslims due to their faith. And the term itself is quite old. It goes back to the 1900s when the West African Muslims were treated by the French colonists. So it's not something new, but it's getting a lot of attention in the media lately. Still, most people, they're quite ignorant about what it means and how to deal with it and what's the right way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and I found also another interesting definition, which is very close, to what you have just mentioned, which is the idea of close-minded prejudice, okay, against or hatred of Islam and Muslims.
Right.
The idea of a closed-minded. That's a very interesting, thing that I found, about the definition, and the idea of a prejudice or discrimination or judging before something.
Exactly, and like there is a lack of information or misinformation, and it again takes us back to the other episode we did about the mind invasion, where there is just an explosion of information and we have a tendency to believe just anything and everything. And one of the reasons is that we are being lazy. We don't like to investigate. And if you look at this thing in terms in our recent memory, again, this is not new. Jews were demonized for years before these phrase of anti-Semitism came up. Okay, and they were demonized so much that the Holocaust took place, which was really, really tragic. No one should be persecuted through what they went through. And then later on, we realized that the same kind of treatment was given to communism. There was a character assassination of communism. I'm not saying that communism was right, but what I'm saying is that the advantage that certain entities took was that there was a gap of information. And again, the thing is, this time around, it's Islam. So like one of the prime ministers of a very big non-Muslim country said that Islamophobia is the new anti-Semitism. So we're looking at old fears and new threats.
Yeah. And, maybe we should talk about, like a new term also associated with the term Islamophobia, which is Islamophobe, which is a person who adopts this kind of belief. Okay. And I found very interesting, article talking about, 3 groups, okay, of people who have this kind of, belief system, which is, the hate or the fear of Islam. The first one is called inner core. And when we talk about inner core, we're not just talking about people, but it could be also organizations.
Right.
And they're trying to actually, these inner cores, their primary purpose is to promote this kind of hatred or prejudice, and also the work is very clear. You can see it. So they have the purpose, they believe in it, okay, and what they try to promote for it. Okay, so they believe in it and they try to do some work regularly to promote, for such a thing. And then we have what we call outer core. Okay, outer core means, the people whose primary purpose does not appear to hate Islam. So when you meet them, they seem to be peaceful, happy, and so on. But their work actually behind the scenes, okay, does support, what the attack against, Islam. And then we have, the third one, which is what of concern, and basically their primary purpose is to support, the idea, okay, but the work does not regularly demonstrate or support the concept of Islamophobia. So you see, like there are some people who are showing that and they do some work. There are some people who do not show that they hate Islam, for example, but they participate in a lot of work or they support a lot of work. And we have another group that they don't support the idea of Islam or they hate Islam, but they are not involved in any kind of work against Islam.
I just wanted to clarify something. Now, is it, when we say Islamophobia, is it the hate of the religion of Islam, or is it the fear from the religion of Islam? Because these are two different things. You fear something because it is threatening your life, it is threatening your sources, things like that. But hate is something totally different.
I would like to just take it one step further. It could be the fear of some of the extreme minority of Muslims who are projected in the media most of the time. So a lot of people don't know about the doctrines of Islam, and the proof for that is that when Islam is presented to them, a number of staunch opponents of Islam, they end up reverting. they end up reverting to Islam.
No, but still, what I'm asking is, Islamophobia, is it hate towards Islam or is it fear towards Islam?
Both terms are used.
Yeah, but are there two categories of people?
Yeah.
People who are, fearing Islam and people who hate Islam.
See, the thing is, there could be either or scenario. The way I look at it is, it starts with fear. If I don't know you as a person and somebody else tells me Hatim is like that, Hatim is like this, initially I'll start fearing you. And if that gap is let to be increased, there's a gulf and there's no information, I haven't had first-hand contact with you, then that fear will translate into hate. There's a strong chance the fear will translate into hate.
I would say it's a result of that fear.
Yeah.
Of fear.
Cause and effect.
So they are very interconnected. So first of all, you start, fearing something. As a result of that fear, you will tend to hate that concept.
There's an argument that why should people, put focus into this Islamophobia thing? Is it a myth? Is it happening? Because the majority of the people of the world, they might not even know what is the religion of Islam. They've never heard of it before. I remember through traveling to many countries, people ask me, where are you from? And, what religion are you? And when I say Islam, they say, is this part of Catholicism? Is it part of Christianity? Is it Jewish? They have never heard of Islam. So how can they fear something, or how can they hate something?
Fear of the unknown.
That they don't know.
And we are to blame for this thing because we're not doing dawah. We're not propagating Islam the way we should. We're not inviting other people to the way of the Creator, which is our primary job. After all, we are all ambassadors of God Almighty.
And also in terms of ideologies, Islam promotes a lot of good principles when it comes to, which could clash with a lot of interest, for a lot of industry and companies and so on. So I think, sometimes, they don't wait, till people get to know Islam. They want to create this fear, before it gets to people's, heads and minds and lives and so on. So I think, this is the strategy, used by a lot of people. They do it before it happens.
But for some of the non-Muslims out there who are listening to us today, they want to know the fact, the truth from the Muslims.
Yeah.
Is Islam a threat?
No, it's not.
As a concept or as a reality?
Both.
Yeah,
both.
Because we need to distinguish.
Because both is important. Yeah, if you're talking only about the concept and you're not covering the reality, it's something which does not make sense. So you need to see both.
The thing
from
is,
the concept and from the reality side.
See, Islam is not only theoretical, it's practical, and it has been shown to the world more than 1437 years ago. However, we need to clarify the difference between the teachings of Islam and what some extreme minority Muslims are doing. So there's a huge difference. So unfortunately, now what we say is
you said something else. Extreme minority Muslims. So these are Muslims.
Yeah, they call themselves Muslims, and we cannot doubt it. If somebody comes up to us and he says, Assalamu alaikum, my name is Muhammad, and I'm your Muslim brother, there's no way we can doubt that, right?
Yeah.
So even though their conduct is totally contradicting the teachings of Islam, they are still Muslims.
Well, they are saying so. We don't know what's in their heart. Maybe they're ignorant. Maybe they're doing it on purpose.
Does that mean that everyone who claims to be a Muslim is a Muslim?
Well, that's another debatable issue. Okay. First of all, do we measure, the Islamic teachings, based on the religion itself or by the people who are practicing the religion? Then if we make a clear distinction between the two, then I think we'll not have an issue. You cannot guarantee that all Muslims will represent Islam the way it should be. So sometimes we cannot guarantee this in a lot of situations. So I think in order to really measure, the truth or the true message of Islam, we have to go to the authentic sources in order to find out the true message of Islam.
But for many non-Muslims, the way they understand it, that these Muslims behave this way because this is derived from their religion, because they got this from their religion. They might, for example, if I say a person who is a revert to Islam, he might be a peaceful person before Islam.
Correct.
And then when he became a Muslim, he started to become radical and an extremist.
Yeah.
So it means that Islam has affected his conduct.
Not
so
necessarily.
it's from the teachings of Islam.
Not necessarily.
That would be the argument.
Yeah, but not necessarily. It could be, first of all, because of the people around him and the way we convey the message, the way we teach, the message to these people. Okay, we might be wrong, let's say, interpreter, for the messages of Islam. Sometimes the wrong interpretation for the Islamic teachings could lead to such a thing. And this is what we are facing, nowadays. Wrong interpretations, wrong explanations for a lot of our teachings, because at the end of the day, Hatim, we need to have this as a fact. Okay, people are limited, regardless whether they have, the knowledge, the education, qualifications, and so on. It doesn't matter. Okay, we are still limited. And these limitations could really explain why we could have wrong interpretations.
What do you mean by limited?
Limited, like we're human beings at the end of the day. We don't know everything.
We are not, how do they say it in English? Infallible? From making mistakes.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, we are humans.
See, Hatim, we're supposed to have good company. We're supposed to stay close to the sources and people of knowledge who are preaching according to the sources. The other thing is, just to answer your question, we need to look at how many reverts have actually been radicalized and look at the ratio, the percentage. It's common knowledge ever since humanity has started to collect statistics as in modern day and age. The fastest growing way of life, which we call in Arabic deen, not religion because it has a more comprehensive definition, has been Islam. It has been in Guinness Book of World Records as long as they were recording it. And in every other land, be it Far East, be it Europe, be it the Americas. Okay, and if you look at the current state of Muslims, it's not exactly in a very good shape. The persecution and the oppression and what they're going through all over the globe, and still humanity is reverting towards the truth. Okay,
but the thing is, Muhammad, are the majority of Muslims responsible for the act of the minority of those who claim to be Muslims?
No, they're not. I mean, I would like to throw the same question. Is the whole Christianity responsible for what Hitler did to the Jews? Should they be
wars,
should they be the apologizing on his behalf to every single Jew?
Okay, so the thing that we need to make it very clear is that we have like 1.6 billion Muslims around the globe. Yeah,
and growing.
What's the fraction of percentage of Muslims out of this population that have gone extreme, that are causing all this these nonsense that is going on?
Someone has to do the math on that. To be honest, I don't have access to those stats. Maybe somebody has already crunched numbers and done something. But you see, look at it. There are so many Muslim lands who are existing in peace. And, if you want to discount the current situation, go back 10 years, go back 15 years. When a number of our close neighbors, they were enjoying peace and harmony. And look at the situation of minorities living under the Islamic majority at that time. And look at the same non-Muslim minorities living under chaos and anarchy now, because the central command and control is breaking down. Okay? And same thing happened in Spain, if you want to go back and if you want to be a student of history. All right, and this is documented by the intellectuals that the most peace and tolerance and harmony that they enjoyed was under the Muslim rule.
But at the same talk, what about the situation now? I mean, I totally agree with you in terms of history. We had a lot of stories, saying what you have just mentioned, but at the same time, we also have incidents where Muslims are trying to harass, non-Muslims. So how would you respond to this, claims?
Well, they'll have their accountability because, like Hatim said initially, what if you say you're a Muslim and then whatever you're thinking or doing is totally contrary to the teachings of Islam? All right. So the thing is, the book should be thrown at them, if possible, in this world. If not, God will take care of them in the hereafter. But just because somebody carries a label of Islam doesn't mean gives them a right to act badly, because that should put more responsibility on you. Now you're an ambassador of the Creator. You should be more in peace and harmony and tolerance. All right. Just before we continue our discussion, the number to call is 2460-2058. Again, 2460-2058. So do call in and join the conversation.
And we'd like also to remind you all that we have a Facebook page. It's called Life as It Is, and you can find all the tips about the discussions that we have on the shows, and you will have also an audio copy of the previous episodes that we have. So on a daily basis, we upload these episodes on the YouTube.
And we are also adding some very relevant links that we are sure would be beneficial. You'll not only enjoy them, they're good entertainment, but you'll also get valuable lessons out of them. All right, let's take it to the next topic. Sticking to Islamophobia, where do you think it's more prominent, or where do you think we find this thing?
Most probably in the West. Most probably in the West.
In terms of perceiving it, yeah?
Yeah, but I wouldn't really confine it to the West. Even now, in the Arab world, it is there. In the Asian world as well, it is there. For you would say the minority of other religions who are living on Islamic lands, recently they have been prosecuted. These are acts of a few black sheeps of the religion that claim to be Muslims, and unfortunately the mainstream media propagates this and magnifies it and makes it a big deal.
That's the key word, actually. how the media plays a role actually in making things seem to be really big, and this is what we're suffering from, actually. Nobody talks about the good things that we do in everyday life. Okay,
good news never sell.
Exactly. So they focus more on the minority that tend to do all these kind of things, and a lot of people pay the price. Now, you go around, you might be killed because of somebody's action. One person out of, I don't know, millions of people, would make other people under threat because of such an action.
Exactly. It always makes me think, like, when you look at the biased coverage of most of the mainstream media, not all of them, we see that anytime there's and I'm going to use this word, a person of brown skin, his whole background is mentioned in the news. But if it's somebody of a lighter skin, then it's just a lone wolf. It's just somebody with mental issue. It's somebody who needs psychiatric help. It's somebody who was drunk. It's somebody who needs help. All right, and it's just brushed under the carpet. You never get to hear about it again.
Like the hate crime that happened in last year, I think, or the beginning of this year, that the 3 Muslims that were shot by their neighbor. And there was not much coverage in the media, and it was just a normal crime that just happened in a neighborhood.
Right.
But if it was the other way around, that a Muslim has shot someone, then it would have been a big deal.
They would have run that video clip years after that to remind everyone, even if somebody has forgotten. So
here comes the point that should we be apologetic with all these double standards that are out there?
No, we should not. And this is the scary trend I see, that each time something happens, we feel a guilt trip. All right, and we're like, oh my God, I hope it's not a Muslim. Well, you see, the thing should be, so what if he is or she is? They have to.
Everyone is accountable for their own actions.
Everybody is accountable for their own deeds, and everybody is equal under the eyes of the law. And the sad thing is these instances, which are not just verbal, but they get into physical harassment and sometimes bodily injury and death. They're increasing. All right, we got a caller on the line. Can we get him on the line?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm Shaheen with you.
Yes, sister.
You have rightly said that it is the minority of the Muslims who are maligning the name of Islam. And if that is the case, then what happens to the majority of the Muslims? And if we consider the majority to be good, shouldn't we, the majority, then take up the key role of portraying the correct picture of Islam within our own spheres and within our own roles that we are playing on a day-to-day, everyday basis with people whom we are dealing with? Because then it becomes an incumbent responsibility on people like us to be actually telling the world what Islam is all about.
Definitely.
So rather than, criticizing and looking down at the minority of the black sheep of our community, I think we really have to take up a very major role and portray the correct picture of Islam to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for your call, sister. What I would like to say on this is very important. Generally, Muslims have a reactive strategy. They don't have a proactive methodology. If an event happens, then everybody will start screaming at in the media. That is, if they get any airtime. That this
they
is
will
not,
start protesting and burning flags.
Well, some of them again the extreme minority, and they will provide fuel to the mainstream media again, because then after the event they will start showing coverage of how they're behaving,
how Muslims are angry.
Exactly. But what you see, if you look at all the Muslim bodies which are around the world, especially in the West, and especially the leading scholars of Islam, they give statements on most of these events.
Yes.
That this is not Islamic, it has nothing to do with Islam. They open up their masjids so people can come.
But the question is,
but it's too little too late, and it's not covered by the mainstream media.
The question is, again, is it beneficial? Is it, are we being apologetic for anything that is being happening?
Yes, we are being, unfortunately.
Even if we go out there in the mainstream media and say, no, this is not Islam, will it stop it from happening again?
Nope.
No.
Yeah,
it won't.
But
it will always be happening.
See, the thing is, we need to highlight the causes also. While we are condemning the physical act, we need to communicate to the masses that, look, guys, this is some of the reasons why this is happening. I'm sure everybody is interested. Well, most of the people are interested in reducing such incidents.
Yes.
Nobody wants to see this happen to their family.
Yeah. So tell us, Muhammad, why is it happening? Why are some of the Muslims acting aggressively towards others?
You see, there is a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of anger and aggression which has been tied up for a long time. And if you look at statistics, and these are compiled again by the bodies from the West, this is not Muslim predominantly media statistics. The thing is, if again, I'll tell you, let's just go back 10 years. I'm sure we can all think what was going on 10 years ago in the region.
Yeah.
And these events were almost non-existent. They were almost never heard of, because it's a principle of live and let live. Muslims were led to live peacefully in their lands, and there was almost no reaction and no backlash. It was only after these invasions and whatever is happening in the region that so much tyranny was dished out and so much cruelty was done on children, on women, and people saw the video footage again and again, and they saw the pictures in the print media. All right, and some of them they resorted to violence. They started to show their frustration in this way, and this is a known fact that the policy of war is good for certain entities. Okay, not everybody likes war. Majority people don't like war, but the reality of the world is run by minority. Okay, so there are certain entities, and think about it peacefully, who do not want war. War is bad for business, unless you are in the business of war.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a hint I'm giving you all. Okay, so there are certain entities, they just can't accept peace at any cost.
Yeah.
So they will keep on creating these circumstances
Or
and these
clashes.
excuses and this what you call clash of civilization, which it is not. Okay, and they will keep on getting people fighting each other and killing each other because it's good for their business.
And provoke them.
Yeah.
Exactly, because
most of the time people are being provoked.
Because if you look at it, Islamophobia is mostly hate speech, and it incites violence.
Yeah.
All right, we're going towards our first break, and we will be back on air shortly. The number to call is 2460-2058. Do call in and share us with your comments and your valuable feedback.
Lulu BMW Dream Drive. This season, luxury awaits you at Lulu. Shop and win 6 BMW X5 35i and other fabulous prizes. With every purchase of 10 Rials, get a chance to win up to 6 BMW X5 35i and 30 Icon products like 48-inch LED TVs, top-load automatic washing machines, air coolers, halogen air fryers, tablets and lots more. Shop at Lulu today and stand to drive home your dream. Promotion valid till 5th August 2015. Lulu, where the world comes to shop.
How about about winning a feature-packed 1.8-litre engine car for free this Ramadan. The Geely M Grand 7 can be yours. Just WhatsApp your name, location, and say that one thing you liked most about Geely. And you could become the lucky winner to own one. Send your WhatsApp message to 9440666 today. Anyone can win a Geely M Grand 7 this Ramadan. Terms and conditions apply.
When I step into my bank, I like a warm and friendly welcome.
When I avail of a service, I expect quick transactions.
When I'm banking, I look for products designed around my needs.
At Bank Soha, our journey towards service excellence begins with you. We are committed to facilitating your goals with customized products and prompt assistance, marking your journey with remarkable milestones. Make a difference to your banking experience with Bank Soha. Call 24730000 today.
Life is a journey, and through this journey, we come across all challenges. These challenges makes us better human beings.
Dear listeners, welcome back. The topic we're discussing today is Islamophobia, and I'm joined by Hatim Al Abdilsalam and Ahmed Al Matani. So Hatim,
yes,
we have discussed about some of the reasons for the Islamophobia. Now let me ask you this. Are these reasons actually justified? Like as an example, if you meet somebody who's not a Muslim and he's visiting Oman for the first time.
Yes.
Okay. What would you ask him?
Well, actually, I don't see a valid reason to have this phobia of Islam and Muslims, especially for the majority of the world who have never met a Muslim, they've never heard of Islam in their entire life. Yeah, they've never encountered aggression from a Muslim. And if you see today, the weakest countries on earth are the Muslim countries.
Correct.
Yeah. We are less in numbers, we are less in weapons, we are less in everything. So normally you fear of someone who is superior to you, who is more powerful than you, who can dominate on you, who has had aggression against you, who has had invasions on you. But none of that is happening.
Exactly.
We should have fear of them. We should have the fear of the West.
Right.
But it's the other way around. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
For a person to say that no, we have Islamophobia, and many of the Europeans who visit Oman, for example, they would say that Oman is more peaceful than my own country.
Correct.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do say that. Yeah.
It's a total contradiction and illusion that is out there. That there is a huge fear and phobia of Islam and Muslims. It doesn't make sense at all.
Exactly. And again, this is primarily mainstream media driven, and you can highlight to them that, look at all the people of other faiths and no faiths living in Oman for the last 4 or 5 decades. And they're enjoying law and order and peace, and they're raising their families and living among Muslims, and they're doing business, and in a number of cases making more money than the Muslims living over here.
I know a lot of expatriates who are working here in Oman, for example, and they say that if we have the choice not to leave, we'll stay here because
exactly
it's a very good environment to raise our children.
Exactly. And this brings us to the question, then if we are weak as people who are supposed to represent, the religion.
Even states.
Yes, okay. So if we are weak, then what makes, these people create this kind of propaganda, okay? I would call it, a negative propaganda about Islam. Maybe, this is something to do with back to the idea of the teachings of the religion. Okay, we have, as we said before, we need to make a clear distinction between the Muslims who are practicing Islam and the true message of Islam.
All right, we got another caller online. Just get him online. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you, brother?
Good, alhamdulillah. May I know who's calling?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Mukhtar Ali, and I was just listening to your discussion, and I really get impressed. I mean, this is really a good topic to discuss right now.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
I listened all the causes. You've been discussing regarding why the Islamophobia is spreading all over the world.
All right.
Yeah, I want to make some additions. I was just thinking maybe.
Okay.
Because what the causes you people discuss, they are more at public level or individual level. But unfortunately, being on a wider perspective, if we see at political level and at media level, this is more being propagated.
Right.
I have been working in European countries for years, and I found out that the religion is the last thing people used to discuss, or religion is the last thing people used to differ with. I've been having very good relations with different religions, and what my perception is that at political level this thing has been propagated massively.
Right.
And especially after 9/11, this thing has spread all over the world. Before that, if world was more safe and religion was the last thing people used to care about. But after that, the whole perspective has been changed, and this is my perception. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not more on an individual or personal level. But the Islamophobia is more like a political. It's a political gimmick they are trying to
exactly.
gain with.
Thank you, Doctor. We really appreciate your call. This is a very interesting point that you have made. Actually, he does have weight to it. The thing is, before there was a common enemy, and it was called communism. Okay, and once that went away, there is a saying: we always need a common enemy to unite us. The next boogeyman which was identified was, falsely of course, was Islam.
Yes.
Okay, he is correct, and if you look at the statistics again by the bodies which originate from the West, there was a spike, and it's just growing now after 9/11.
But the fact, Muhammad, that the doctor was highlighting is the majority of the Europeans and the people in the West are very peaceful and very loving towards everyone.
Yeah.
And as he mentioned, that religion was the last thing that people discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't differentiate when it comes to religion. And even today, when you go to many of the European countries, people don't really bother about where you come from or what's your religion or what's your faith. This is the least of their interest. But as a state, then on a political forum, platform, then that's where the problem is, where it is really propagated.
And I guess also they were talking about the spiritual emptiness that a lot of people had to go through for so many years, because there's this kind of separation between religion and the state in these countries. People eventually will have to go back to something that make them fully spiritual. And when they did not find that in their lives, they started looking for other options. And I think I was listening to a lecture, and they were talking about the idea of Islam invading Europe. Okay. It's a threat, for a lot of, religions.
Because of the number of immigrants moving on to Europe.
The Muslim, communities usually are big, in terms of families and so on. So they tend to make, these ideas, like big to the people. So when people started to feel empty from inside, they start looking for something, to fill that emptiness. And, one of the options available for them is Islam. So when people started to feel that, people are converting or reverting to Islam, that created this kind of game. Okay, what makes, we should come up with an idea or a weapon, if you want to call it, a mental weapon that will make these people get scared of the teaching of this religion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You see, Ahmed, I would like to add something. People talk about, and there's a lot of these, short, scary videos created by God knows who on the internet, and they talk about, Islam taking over Europe. You see, the thing is, first of all, if people in Europe, they decide not to get married and not to have, children and not to have big families, then this is their choice, right?
Yeah.
So they should not blame Muslims for that. The other thing is, initially, the brains Muslim brains were attracted towards the West, the PhDs and the masters, the doctors, the engineers. So nobody was complaining because this was good addition to the society. You went as a grad student and you decided to stay there and get married and, just call it your home.
Yeah. And the other thing, the doors are open.
Yeah,
they are welcome there.
Exactly, but see, the thing is, when certain countries of the West, they just started bombing the countries in the Muslim countries, and then there was a chaos and anarchy. A lot of those people, they started to flee their areas. So you cannot blame them. Now we see all these terrible stories about people getting sunk on the boats and they're trying to run away from their homelands towards Europe, and then certain countries won't accept them, and then it's a big hue and cry. But we need to look at the root cause. What's making them flee their countries? Is it really their fault?
Who wants to leave their country?
Exactly.
Everybody loves their own country. And
as a last resort, you decide to go out when you just see that there is absolutely no hope. So we need to see who's doing this to their homeland. So you cannot scream now that refugees are coming and they're just taking over, and you can't do that.
While you are the main cause for the turbulence in their country.
Exactly.
And if we can add one cause to to have such a concept or phenomenon in our societies or in the world is the education, I would call it. And what I mean by education is the idea of, first of all, Muslims getting educated about their own religion, okay? And the other thing is how can we also educate other people who are not Muslims about Islam?
Exactly, doing dawah.
Doing dawah, exactly. So look, we have a problem. We have a lot of Muslims who do not know anything about Islam.
Yes.
They are Muslims only by birth, okay, or by inheritance. Okay.
By name, yeah.
By name, okay. They were born Muslims and they don't know anything about Islam. And we have this disease, that we are suffering from nowadays, which is the idea of being, specialized in one area. Like, for example, I think we mentioned this before, but let's, emphasize it again. Like a person who is, who's supposed to be knowledgeable about Islam has to have certain specifications or qualifications, or it becomes like a job, like an imam or a preacher. While in reality, every Muslim has to have, a good level of education when it comes to his or her religion. And we suffer from this. Okay, it's only because you're an imam, you have to know about your religion. No, this is, a wrong concept.
I agree.
And this would also create, the idea of being invaded, from outside in terms of wrong ideologies and people who are having, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The idea of not being equipped with the needed knowledge, when it comes to fighting back, and trying to clarify the concepts of
okay,
Islam.
We have our first call for today. Our first guest is Brother Talib from the United States. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, brother?
I'm good today, alhamdulillah.
How's everything?
By the mercy and grace of Allah, everything is going well, alhamdulillah.
How's Ramadan with you?
It's going great, alhamdulillah. It's a little bit tested with the heat this year, but mashallah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Wonderful.
Good.
Brother Talib, you're from the United States, and today we're talking about Islamophobia. Yeah, whether this is a myth, whether it is really existing, and the reasons why it appeared in the first place. So, can you share some thoughts about this topic, Brother Talib?
Islamophobia. My thoughts, mashallah, alhamdulillah, I entered into Islam and I accepted Islam in the States. And I can recall, an environment around me after accepting Islam. I can recall people's perceptions of Islam during that time. And of course now, and compare them to now. In my honest opinion, a phobia, if you understand what the word phobia means, arachnophobia, fear of spiders, acrophobia, fear of heights. A phobia generally is described as something that causes anxiety or distress. And generally, most phobias, for example, if somebody's afraid of heights, they avoid places where they're, where they may be exposed to heights, claustrophobia, those people don't really won't go inside of elevators and things like that. So if I look at the word Islamophobia and knowing and seeing my experiences, having my experience in the U.S., I don't see people who who become anxious or who become distressed upon seeing Muslims or hearing the word Islam or seeing any type of Islamic paraphernalia or objects or anything like that. In my honest opinion, it's just basic. It's just basic prejudice, or people who may be expressing or feeling that they have a particular superiority over people, and especially me as an African American, I can compare my experiences as growing up as a black man in the U.S. to some of the experiences that I see in general. And when I say in general, only what I see coming from blogs and things like that, and compare it to almost a type of a prejudice or racist attitude. People in general, when they start talking about Islam in a negative way, they don't have anxieties or fears. They generally show anger and rejection. And because of that, I don't think it can be necessarily classified as a phobia. You know, my mother didn't develop, as soon as I became Muslim, she didn't automatically develop some type of fear of me. You know, I don't see people walking in the roads, seeing a Muslim, some woman down the road walking with a niqab on, and people moving to the other side of the road and trying to shelter their children or something like that. People interact with Muslims on a daily basis. I mean, the president just had a Ramadan, iftar and things like that. So I think it's pretty much just the same old type of thing that we've seen throughout the history of man, this particular prejudice. It could be based on jealousy. It could be founded on some factual information. I mean, people do hate to see some of the, atrocities that they see occurring that some Muslims do. But in general, I think it's just an aspect of people, the few people, instead of, for example, say in the United States, wanting to show a particular dominance over particular other people, to say that I'm better, or you're not as good as me, or what I have is better than yours, this type of thing.
The only thing I wanted to ask you, Brother Talib, also, is that there is a claim that Muslims have contributed to this phobia, as they say. Is this true?
Yes, absolutely. La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wusaha. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, whomsoever Allah guides can no one lead astray, and whomsoever Allah leads astray and has no one to guide him.
Yes.
So, having said that, we can't make every person Muslim. If I use this as an example, I mean, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not able to bring his uncle into the fold of Islam, and he was next to and loved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I say that to say this: simply, if every Muslim was doing his particular duty properly in the world, it does not mean that everybody will enter into Islam. At the same token, we can't say that people are not necessarily entering Islam simply because of the bad actions of Muslims. But having said that, people still consider us in terms of what we say we believe. And that's one thing that Muslims, especially Muslims people who are born Muslim, who are raised in Muslim countries, have to understand that people take us more seriously than we take ourselves. Anything that we do, because this deen is al-haq, because of that, absolutely everything we do falls under scrutiny. And because of that, it's extremely sensitive. I often use the comparison that if a Muslim does something, it's comparative to, say, a police officer doing something.
Right.
If I see a general, normal individual, some guy just messing around with the lock of a car, he looks maybe just an average person, even miskeen maybe, and I see him tinkering with the lock of a car, I'm going to tell the person to get away and, don't do that, it's haram, whatnot. And I'll hold them to a certain, in my mind and in my heart, I hold them to a certain consciousness, I hold them to a certain level of responsibility. But if I see a police officer tinkering with the car, as if he's going to do some particular crime or do something haram, I'm going to consider him more responsible than I would that average person. Why? Because they have a greater responsibility to survive and whatnot. We as Muslims must understand that we carry this deen, that we are the representatives of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of our actions, that we are the representatives of Islam. So absolutely everything we do will be scrutinized. So, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in this particular, with fitrah, every single human being, every single created thing has an understanding of La ilaha illallah. So their consciousness, even if it's subconscious, reflects and sees that person, that Muslim, doing something wrong, he automatically rejects it, even if he doesn't want to reject it. You know, I've been in situations where I've been protected by non-Muslims. You know, they'll come up to me and say, hey, you know, I go to a restaurant and they say, hey, don't eat this particular vegetable soup because it has chicken stock in it or something like that. At the same token, if they see a Muslim behaving in the wrong way, I've seen people who have no concern about Islam but check that Muslim based on what they understand how that particular Muslim should act.
All right.
So every single small thing that you do is being witnessed, either by Allah or by individuals, and we have to be held accountable for it. So, yes, it does. We are the greatest perpetrators of Islamophobia, if in this pseudo word that I'm going to call it, this false word, because, and I'll say quickly, because when I give da'wah, the proof for me is this: when I give da'wah, I don't necessarily have to prove correctness of La ilaha illallah.
Yeah.
What I've got to generally do is disprove or discredit the actions of Muslims to try and cut through all of that, and then possibly get the people to start to open up their hearts and their ears. I have to go through a particular explanation of, no, this is not a part of Islam. But, you know, these people are saying La ilaha illallah, they're saying Allahu Akbar, and they're cutting off heads, and they're doing this and doing that. I have to cut through all of that. I have to cut through the actions of Muslims to try to get non-Muslims to listen to me about Islam.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Brother Talib, for the insight. I think you've opened our eyes to a whole new level. Thank you so much, Brother Talib.
Jazakallah.
Thank you.
Jazakallah.
This is just wonderful, Hatim. As a matter of fact, what the brother was saying, we experience this a lot. And when we're doing da'wah, that is inviting people towards Islam or presenting the basic teachings of Islam to them, we try our best as a point to tell them that, look, at times you will see the difference, or you should know the difference between what Islam actually teaches and what Muslims, some of the Muslims are unfortunately doing in their lives. And as one of the revered brother, he's a scholar, he mentioned that luckily I met Islam before I met Muslims.
Exactly.
So this is a very sorry state of affairs, but it does hold weight.
Okay, now that we understand that the propaganda about Islamophobia is not from the general public, of normal people, it's from the state or the regulations or the people who are responsible in politics. So let us look at it in a different angle. Economically, what are the gains out of this?
Well, you see, Hatim, if you look at the world in general in this day and age, most of the world, except for few, places, they are moving away from spirituality and they're going towards materialism.
Exactly.
They're going away from the unseen and they are only having faith in the seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have removed the church, synagogue, masjid separate from the state.
Yes.
Okay. So when your God becomes materialism, all right, then anything that's going to reduce that is going to cause you major distress.
Exactly.
As an example, let's take the example of Islam.
Yes.
It teaches simplicity. It teaches modesty.
Yeah.
Okay. It teaches equality. It's against racism.
Brotherhood.
It teaches brotherhood.
Morality.
It teaches morality, tolerance. Okay.
Yeah. Giving.
Exactly. So just look at it. If more people get to know about these qualities and they start adapting them out of their own free will, what impact will it have on the entertainment industry?
Okay, let us get something straight. Okay, so what we're saying is this is what Islam propagates. What about other faiths in the world? They don't propagate the same thing?
Well,
they do.
They do up to a certain extent, but number of them have made changes in them over the years. I won't say decades, but hundreds of years. And one example is of interest or riba on banking, which was a common denominator. It was looked down upon. It was forbidden in all the monotheistic Abrahamic faiths. And now, if you look at it,
it's permissible.
They have made it permissible. Okay, except for the tenets of Islam, which is still standing, and it will stay the same because it doesn't negotiate with anybody.
And for morality, things like the pornographic industry,
exactly,
which is a huge industry, prostitution.
You see, Hatim, morals.
And recently, just to cut you off, Muhammad. Recently, the declaration of
same-sex marriage,
marriage being legal,
acceptance of same-sex marriage. Yeah.
This is something which was against all heavenly religions.
You see, we are getting more and more towards a godless society. So the actual struggle right now is between faith and no faith.
Yes.
There was a time when you would have an interfaith dialogue and you would talk about the doctrines of Islam in comparison to the doctrines of Christianity, as an example.
Yes.
Now, a lot of your time and energy is spent convincing people that there is a God.
Yes.
So we're having a lot of we're facing a godless generation, and it's just growing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is talking about morality. The definition of morality keeps on changing, except in Islam. If you go back 40 years back or 50 years back and you look at Hollywood movies, you look at their ratings, and then you look at the ratings today, there's a huge difference. Same goes for the music industry. Same goes for, I won't say same, but in a certain degree, you can say the same about the pornography industry.
Yes.
Okay, then you've got the gambling going on. Okay. So all the entertainment, it could be video games, it could be music industry, it could be movie industry, the cinema, okay? All these have certain interests which are common.
Yeah.
All right. So when anybody starts talking about spirituality, and you'll see a lot of people who hate Islam, they don't necessarily have strong Christian roots.
Yes.
Yeah. There are people who just say, well, I don't believe in anything. And now they are getting, there's a certain other group of element who say we worship Satan.
Yeah.
And they are demanding legitimacy.
Yeah.
That they need to be recognized.
What do you say to those who claim that why are Muslims making a big fuss out of this economical growth that we're gaining out of this materialism world? Because Muslims are our biggest customers. Muslims are the ones who are buying alcohol. Muslims are the ones who are gambling. Muslims are the ones who are participating in the entertainment business. Muslims are the ones who are propagating our movies and everything else. So you, on one side, as Muslims, you contradict yourself. You say that no, this is against our teachings, against our values, and on the other hand, you're our best customers.
Well,
we don't seem to understand you Muslims.
We mentioned
what exactly are you looking for?
No, we talked about it a while ago, the difference between Islam, teachings of Islam, and what some Muslims are doing.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got another caller. We'll get to Ahmed. So
I think it's a break.
Guest,
all right.
No, it's a second break.
Okay.
But before we go for a break, we just wanted to remind our listeners that they can call us on 24602058, 24602058.
When we come back from the break, we'll pick up with Ahmed.
Okay.
Lulu BMW Dream Drive. This season, luxury awaits you at Lulu. Shop and win 6 BMW X5 35i and other fabulous prizes. With every purchase of 10 Rials, get a chance to win up to 6 BMW X5 35i and 30 Icon products like 48-inch LED TVs, top-load automatic washing machines, air coolers, halogen air fryers, tablets and lots more. Shop at Lulu today and stand to drive home your dream. Promotion valid till 5th August 2015. Lulu, where the world comes to shop.
When I walk into my bank, I want to be greeted with prompt service.
When I approach my bank, I want to be assisted with sound advice.
When I call my bank, I want to be impressed with competent solutions.
At Bank Soha, our journey towards service excellence begins with you. We are committed to supporting your ambitions with tailor-made services and efficient assistance, marking your journey with remarkable milestones. Make a difference to your banking experience with Bank Soha. Call 24730000 today.
Life is a journey, and through this journey, we come across all challenges. These challenges makes us better human beings. We live for the pleasure of serving others and feeling the guidance of the Creator. Join us and explore the opportunities to overcome your difficulties this Ramadan.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Life as It Is. I understand we have another guest caller on the line.
Today we have our second guest on the line is Dr. Sergio. Do we have them? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Fine, Dr. Sergio. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Ramadan Kareem, Dr. Sergio.
كل عام وانت بخير.
وأنت بخير يا دكتور. So, Doctor, we are talking today about a very important topic, which is Islamophobia. And as a European person, Dr. Sergio, and you've lived in the West for many years, and then now you're settled in Oman, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, you see, Islamophobia is a kind of fear, and then it's a fear that provokes a reaction. And the reaction is based on the perception of those things that are seen as a threat. So to understand, we will have to look at the fear. It's another way it's another expression of like racism in the past, based on color. Now it's based on the perceived threat of a group of people who hold some different views, let's say. Yes, and it is. And look, as long as Islamophobia remains an idea, something in people's heads, it's still negative, but it is not so bad. The problem is when thoughts become words and words become actions, and then you have a social issue, you have a big problem. And is it a problem now in Europe? Yes, it is. I mean, you just have to listen to the radio, watch the news, watch television, talk to people, and Islam and Muslims have become a topic about which almost everybody has something to say, which is not so good, because then people become like, say, animals in a zoo. And when we focus too much on a group of people, we devoid them of the common humanity that we all share, and we start looking at them as exotic.
Yes.
In the past, black people used to be exotic, or maybe Chinese people, or the Chinese or Indians and so forth. They were exotic, so people look at them, and people would look at them and they would perceive them as somehow dangerous, maybe because they were unknown, and things that we don't know are things that we tend to fear. Now Muslims are in, let's say. Muslims are the people who are different, so different that kind of like people look at as if Muslims were not human. So that is a bad development. And of course, in Europe, it has to do also with immigration. That's one of the issues. Suddenly, there are a lot of Muslims, not as many as people would think, but more than before, who are around.
Yes.
On the other hand, of course, there are some financial troubles and problems. So people try to, when things go bad with the economy, people try to find somebody who is the guilty one. Why are things not going well? And so in many societies, people will say, look at Muslims, they don't work, they are lazy, they just profit from the system, they benefit from the system, and so forth. And you have international events like, of course, like 9/11 and everything that happened after that, and that happened in Europe too. So it's a combination of things that actually promote fear. And it is a natural reaction that when we feel afraid, that we want to defend ourselves.
Yes.
And of course, we are rational beings, so we should look at our fears, we should study our fears, And maybe that's what's not happening now. I think our societies have to focus more to try and understand the fear, and is that fear well-founded? Otherwise, it's just plain and ugly discrimination.
Right.
Dr. Sergio, I just wanted to ask you also, now, from a European point of view, what should be the proper reaction of Muslims now that they are labeled in different forms?
You see, many things have to do with the discourse or the narrative, the stories that societies tell themselves. For example, is racism or discrimination an exclusively Western thing? It is not. People, human beings, are discriminated everywhere in the world, almost in every family even.
Yes.
The difference is that, you see, when we grow up in the West, we grow up with the discourse of equality. So Muslims too, they grow up in the West, and they are taught in primary school and everywhere that we are all equal. And then in their own lives, then probably a lot of them don't feel that they are treated equally. But also because we are trained, we are taught, we are educated in the West to stand up for our rights. They become also they speak up. So that's why it's more noticeable in the West than elsewhere. For instance, in other societies, Christians are discriminated, but because they belong to a setting where you believe that you are not equal anyway, so shut up, don't complain. They don't say anything. But in the West, no, everybody, we believe that people are equal and that people should stand up for their rights. That's one thing. And secondly, many of the migrants who go to Europe and to the West exactly because this is what they want. They want that equality, they want those rights, but then when they arrive, they realize that, yes, one thing, on the one hand, you have the discourse, you have the narrative, the story, what we tell ourselves, and on the other hand, you have, the everyday reality, that if you apply for a job and your name is Muhammad or Fatma, and even though you have the same degrees, the same qualifications as somebody else who has another name, you will not get the job. In many cases, it's like this. So you see, you have on the one hand the fear, you have on the other hand the conflicting messages that we are giving to people. So we tell people, yes, you are equal. You should demand that your rights be respected, and you should do that. But then on the other hand, we are not putting that into practice. So that creates tension. And as I said before, part of the view of the other as being exotic is that it is very easy then to work on the basis of stereotypes. And that's happening now, kind of like now you think Muslims are all the same. And whereas it's only a small minority, some people who have problems, who react in violent ways. But because people see the other almost as not being the same type of human, as if they were from another planet. So stereotypes.
But Dr. Sergio, I would like to.
That's why I think.
Okay.
One way of going against this would be to do away with the label of exotic. And that is happening. For instance, I read once of a mosque in Germany that they built, and part of the mosque is just glass, so that anybody from the outside, non-Muslims, could look into the mosque and see what's happening there.
That's a brilliant
so for example,
idea.
That's a very concrete way of
transparency,
undermining fear and stereotypes. Just to see we're just human beings. We come here, we pray, we chat. Sometimes we share some food. So I think that's what we have to do. Not emphasize what makes us being exotic or interesting because we are strange. It is more about the things that make us realize that we share a common humanity.
So do you think, Doctor, that Muslims are actually playing a positive role, or they're doing enough in order to, let's say, introduce themselves to the people who don't have enough information about Muslims, and they're just getting secondhand information from the mainstream media?
Of course. I think one of the good things that came out of the 9/11 period was that the Muslim community became a lot more open.
Mm-hmm.
Before mosques were for Muslims, and usually, the whole discussions in the fiqh whether non-Muslims should be allowed to come in or not, or this or that, and you have purity issues and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But after 9/11, on the part of the Muslim communities, at least the ones that I know,
mm-hmm.
they became very interested in dialogue, in welcoming people. So there were the open door days when people could come to the mosque, just drink tea, eat some halawiyat,
mm-hmm.
talk, ask questions. So that is happening. That is happening, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you see, also on top of that, you have the issue. For example, in universities, people started offering courses about Islam, and they focus on the big people of Islam, the big thinkers, even Sufism, because in the West, Sufism is perceived as kind of like the tolerant,
mm-hmm.
the universally welcoming, say, fragment or segment of the Ummah.
Mm-hmm.
But then also people travel, and then when Westerners go to Muslim countries, they see that in Muslim countries there is also discrimination, and there are a lot of things that they wouldn't agree with. So when they go back home, kind of like this idea comes up that, okay, we are giving Muslims so many rights, but Muslims in their own countries are not giving those rights to non-Muslims. So then,
standards.
kind of like, say, Western Muslims who are completely Western, who agree with the Western ideas of equality and freedom and so forth, they are being punished for what other Muslims somewhere else do, which is also unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of it has to do with the issue that we are living in communities that are very mixed. We are living in communities that influence other communities.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in communities where some people are kept down because of ideas or laws. For example, in the West, I used to teach teachers of Islamic religious education. And the Muslim teachers, when they, for instance, because they weren't teaching Islam, so when they used to go to certain schools, they could wear the hijab up to the door of the school. When they reached the gate of the school, they had to take off the hijab, walk without a hijab on to their classrooms. And as soon as they entered their classroom, because it was the Islamic religious education classroom, they could put their hijab back on, which is a very schizophrenic way of looking at life and education and school. So,
Dr. Sergio.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your input. So we have another 15 minutes to wrap up the show.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Dr. Sergio, for your contribution, and we hope to hear from you soon.
If I would like to say only one thing, one more to finish, is we have to rediscover our common humanity. We have to realize that everything in the world has like a domino effect, and say, and we have to be aware of that. That the way that we deal with others, non-Muslims or Muslims, will come back to us somehow in today's world. And so, if we want to work on this, we have to work on how we deal with human beings, whether it's in Europe or not in Europe. But in the European case, I think the negative thing is that Islamophobia is a betrayal of European values. When Europe behaves in an Islamophobic way, Europe is betraying its own development, its own convictions, and that's why it hurts more.
Subhanallah.
That's powerful words.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sergio.
My pleasure.
And we hope to hear from you soon, inshallah, in other episodes as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Jazakallahu khairan.
I think, he touched upon a lot of interesting things, when it comes to the idea of propagating Islam the right way.
Yes.
And we are not doing a lot, when it comes to propagating, for the true message of Islam. Mm-hmm. And I was talking, before the call about the idea of education. Being educated about your own religion and also educating people about, the religion of Islam. Either we have this kind of shyness or to humility level that, we don't want to educate about people. We might make mistakes or whatever, or this is the job of Sheikh Hatim, to preach and so on. I think we need to go out of that, circle and educate people about, Islam and so on.
We have another call. Assalamu alaikum.
Hi, hello. Claudio speaking from Salalah. How are you?
Fine,
Welcome.
thank you.
How are you?
Thank you. How are you?
Fine, thanks, fine. Listen, I've just listened to the discussion concerning the Islam, and I'm Italian. Sorry for my English if I make some mistake, because
it's wonderful.
Awesome.
It's perfect.
Okay, what I would like to say that I'm not agree with the previous discussion with this American guy, but I forget his name.
Dr. Sergio or the other gentleman?
No, the other one. No,
American.
Sergio has a nice speech
Brother
and
Talib,
he
yeah.
explained everything's right. The only things that I would like to add that this phobia that they say concerning the Muslim is not correct, because it's the media that creates this phobia. Because like Italian and like I hear, we had a lot of refugees coming from many parts of Africa, many Arab country, and for me to be Muslim it doesn't mean to be terrorist. And I try even to explain to many my friends that Islam is a peaceful religion, and this I have to say thank you to the Omani people that they teach me what means the word of Islam, because in the past I was working in another Arab country. I don't want to mention it where, that I never learned nothing good about that.
Yes.
Okay.
But here I have a lot of Omani friends, and they will explain me, and they show me that everything has to be peacefully. So the problem in Italy is that many media, many TV, many radio, many newspaper, they don't explain that terrorism is terrorist. Has nothing to do with the Islam, and this is the problem, because like we know, the media, they want create terror, to sell more the newspaper, to have the people under control. This is the only one that I want say
Thank you
to
very
the
much.
radio,
Yeah.
to the people understand that they have to make more publicity concerning the Islam, because the Islam at the end is very, very close to the Christian religions. We have just a few little difference from Jesus and Muhammad.
Yes.
At the end, it is the same.
Yes.
Thank you very much
you
for
very
the
much
wonderful
for-
input.
Thank you.
And we do agree terrorists don't have a religion.
Yeah, and I think like he also discussed the idea of media and the idea of double standards. You know, when a Muslim, for example, acts or behaves in a wrong way, people try to talk about it in a very big like form.
His religion is made the center point of the whole discussion.
Like it will be the center of the whole discussions, the channels, and so on. While if non-Muslim does the same kind of action, nobody will refer to his religion or her religion.
I came across this gentleman on the internet. His name is Nathan Leon, and he's written this wonderful book, The Islamophobia Industry.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of the things that I caught from his short interview was that the phenomena of foreign enemy domestic threat. And what it's doing is that by creating this boogeyman which is far, far away and saying, oops, it's just coming, it's almost here, are you ready, it's coming. What they're doing is they're distracting from the local issues, like the killing of blacks by cops in America, which is just growing and growing in frequency and seriousness, and the shootings at schools or the black churches or cinemas or malls.
Yeah.
So the thing is, people need to wake up, and they need to wise up, and they need to understand the issues which are closer to home. And if they keep on scaring themselves with this threat, fear is going to get to them. And they're saying there's a more chance that you'll get hit by a car than you'll actually get hit by a terrorist. Okay, there's some really cute statistics out there. So a lot of it is perception management, so to speak.
Exactly.
And we're talking about perception. When you said media, just look at it in a different angle. How they perceive, they elude other people. Now, for example, if you look at the movies and you see an Italian, you automatically associate that with mafia.
Exactly.
If you see a Chinese in a movie, you associate with kung fu. If you see an Arab, then there's a bomb somewhere.
So
and the strange thing,
the Russian, for example, known by like the enemy, and they try and terrorize
the red threat. They're trying to rise up again. And the strange thing is that most of the people, they honestly don't know that a lot of Arabs are not of Muslim descent. There are people of other faith who are Arab. As a matter of fact, only almost 1/5 of the population
of the Arabs
of Muslims is actually Arabs.
And if you 18% only.
Exactly. And if you look at it, they are the one who are most demonized in Hollywood.
Yes.
This is a tragedy. But the masses buy them because we're lazy. We don't want to do research. We just want somebody to give us everything like pre-chewed food, and we just swallow it. That's it.
And I think Hatim, we were discussing the idea that we still have some Muslims who actually involved in a lot of non-Islamic actions. When you were talking about supporting like projects which are not Islamics, or they tend also to support like some of the not allowed like deals, for example, in the Islamic community. And this is back to the idea.
Muhammad gave a few examples of some of the industries that are really creating this illusion about the Islamophobia. And actually, the majority of the shares of these organizations are owned by Muslims.
This is
which brings us to the next point, which is
what are we
the enemies among
money?
Ourselves. Some Muslims are the enemies of Islam themselves.
And this is also, we need to raise another question. Okay, we need to distinguish between real Muslims and Muslims,
pseudo Muslims.
Yes, because unfortunately,
what's a pseudo Muslim?
By name, by birth, by label.
And sometimes maybe in reality they are not Muslims, but they have to wear this mask of Islam in order to deceive other people around them.
You see, Hatim, we've always had traitors throughout history. I mean, this is not a shock. So you must know the source and the instructions of the source. Don't take it from somebody who has a long beard only.
One of the callers, I don't remember who, they've said that Islamophobia, when it's just in the mind, it's a negative thought. But the most dangerous part when it turns into an action.
Words and then
which
actions,
is invasion and bombing other countries.
And see, the thing is, on an individual level, we've seen incidences of like throwing petrol bombs into the masjids, or snatching the hijab of a sister, or harassment in public areas, or on social media, or harassment of the neighbors. And while Muslims are up to a certain degree to blame why they didn't interact with them, why they didn't introduce them to Islam and to Muslims, why they were living in a silo.
Again, Muhammad, even if they're living in a silo, does that give the right for others to,
No, it doesn't. I'm just saying this is no, it doesn't. It doesn't
give you the
right.
right.
The thing is, this is one of the reasons, the causes, if you want to look at it. We should be out there. We should have interfaith dialogues. We should meet up with our neighbors, get involved in our community.
Muhammad, they are propagating that freedom of speech and the right to practice your own religion, and then they have these double standards. They don't make sense. They don't make sense because if I choose to be isolated, if I choose to be in my own closed community, and they have other closed communities in the West that are not Muslims, they don't go and intrude them. They don't go and disturb them.
It's fear.
Double standards.
There will always be, and like Brother Talib said something very wonderful, that we being Muslims will always be under the microscope. All right. Anybody else can do whatever they want, but even if we do something by mistake, we'll get the book thrown at us, and we're being scrutinized all the time.
What I think that should happen is what you said at the beginning, which is very, very important. Now is the battle is between the people who believe that there is a creator and the godless people against the godless people. Yeah. So I think we should join hands with the people of all faiths.
Yeah.
Against the other team.
Exactly.
Which is spreading corruption online.
Exactly.
What happens most of the time is, even when we have all these interfaith, dialogues, okay, there will be another force that works, behind the scenes to value the differences more than the similarities, or the things that, we can work together. And unfortunately, we have to pay the price.
Yeah. See, what I would like to add to this is like Dr. Sergio was saying that about that masjid, half of it is glass and people can actually see what's going on. Well, I would like to share, this fact with our friends, with our listeners who don't know. The Grand Masjid is open daily except for Fridays from, I think, 8 to 11 in the morning.
Yeah.
And people of all faith and no faith are invited to come, have a chat, stop by, have tea, coffee, dates. And have a friendly discussion. So it is available closer to home, and we encourage all people to avail this opportunity, get to know a Muslim. We've come across people who've lived here for 20, 30 years, and sadly no Muslim has ever introduced them to Islam. So I would like to take this platform to invite all our friends who are from a different faith than Islam to please drop by at the masjid.
And we want to change the conception of Muslims. It's not about converting.
Yeah.
It's just conveying. It's building bridges. It's getting to know each other.
Exactly.
So tomorrow you can say, no, wait a minute. What media is saying is wrong. I have lived with Muslims. They're not like this. This is what their book says. I've been there. I've spent time with them.
Yeah. The other message that I want to send out to the non-Muslims living in the Muslim countries and living the peace and harmony with the Muslims, they have to propagate this message out.
Exactly.
When they go back to their homes, they should,
they do. By the way, they do.
Most of them, they do. But I think they can do more in propagating and defending the Muslims, that Muslims are not what they see on the news.
And I think, we also need to emphasize, the fact that, Muslims have to educate themselves, okay? Because we suffer, because of our ignorance, okay? We have a problem of ignorance, and we will continue suffering if we don't get, educated about, our own teachings.
No, exactly. Yeah, we need to build bridges, and the first way or the first line of defense is get involved with your neighbor, get involved with your community, go to the local masjid.
Invite people to your home.
Invite people to your home. Let the kids play. Let them feel we are all humans. We have a lot more common than what we don't have common. The message go to non-Muslims is, you guys are ambassadors of the Creator. You're under the microscope, whether you like it or not. Behave in the best possible way that you can. Whatever knowledge you have, build upon it, but don't wait for the knowledge to get to a certain level. You need to convey the message, whatever you already know. With this, we would like to wrap up today's show. Hatim, please tell us what's coming up next.
Yes, tomorrow we have a special topic, which is modern poverty, with Brother Ahmed Al Matani. So see you tomorrow, inshallah, with a brand new show from me, Hatim Al Abdilsalam, Engineer Muhammad Farooq, and Brother Ahmed Al Matani. This is Life as It Is.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Never think of change. Be the change. Thank you for being a part of this amazing journey. Life as it is. Here on the Nation Station, Radio Sultan of Oman, 90.4 FM.
Lulu BMW Dream Drive. This season, luxury awaits you at Lulu. Shop and win 6 BMW X5 35i and other fabulous prizes. With every purchase of 10 Rials, get a chance to win up to 6 BMW X5 35i and 30 Icon products like 48-inch LED TVs, top-load automatic washing machines, air coolers, halogen air fryers, tablets and lots more. Shop at Lulu today and stand to drive home your dream. Promotion valid till 5th August 2015. Lulu, where the world comes to shop.
This is Radio Sultan of Oman and the time is 2:30 p.m. The news, first the headlines. The Ministry of Interior declares the final list of Shura Council members, candidates for the 8th term elections. Arab-led warplanes bomb rebels' positions, killing 8 people, while rebel rocket fires killed 6. At least 22 people are killed in U.S. airstrikes on the Daesh group's de facto Syrian capital. Egyptian warplanes killed 25 militants in North Sinai. And at least 11 people are killed in 2 car bombs in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. This news has been edited by Nawal Al-Harthi, directed by studio engineer Mohammed Al-Shabibi, and presented by Zunaid Al-Barwani. Thank you for joining us, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos bin Said sent a cable of condolences to the custodian of the 2 holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, on the death of His Royal Highness Prince Abdullah bin Abdulaziz bin Musa'id bin Ghaloy Al Saud of the Northern Borders region. In the cable, His Majesty the Sultan expressed his sincere condolences and sympathy to the King, praying to Allah Almighty to rest the bereaved soul in peace and grant his family patience. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos bin Said sent a cable of greetings to President Ikilu Doni of the Union of the Comoros on the occasion of his country's National Day. Meanwhile, His Majesty the Sultan sent a similar cable to President Nursultan Nazarbayev of the Republic of Kazakhstan on the occasion of his 75th birthday. In the cable, His Majesty the Sultan expressed his sincere greetings along with his best wishes of good health and happiness to the President and their family and friendly people for their progress and prosperity. The Ministry of Interior declared the final list of Shura Council members candidates for the 8th term elections. The Ministry